Hi, and welcome to the Swan Effect Mums Coffee and Chat podcast. This week, I'm greeting Pamela Everly, and Pamela is going to talk about postnatal depression and making the decision to have another child after. So I'll call you Pam, if that's okay. Pamela always seems
That would be perfect. Thank you very much. That's ace. My mum calls me Pamela. I feel like I'm in trouble.
Well, I said that because obviously my daughter's called Veronica, but we call her Ronnie. She's always going to be Ronnie. And I thought, oh, I don't really want to call her Veronica when she's just naughty because she'll hate that name.
I know. It happens though, doesn't it?
So I always ask this to everybody. Where do you live and who do you live with?
Okay, so I live in North Wales, not far from Conway. I live in the countryside, which I'm very fortunate and grateful that we do, because I'm surrounded by fields, which is lovely. And I live with my husband and my 2 children and our dog.
So yeah, I know Pamela because she lives close by. I don't have the same view as Pam at all, and yeah, it's stunning up there. It's absolutely
We're
gorgeous.
so lucky. Yeah, it is.
Looking down the valley and everything is lovely. So tell us a little bit about your children. How old are they? What's the age difference? Tell me a little bit about them.
All right. So Keris is 9. She's turning out to be a mini me, which is alarming.
It's not a good thing then.
And I look at her sometimes and I think, do I really do that? Yeah, I guess I do. So there we are. She's 9, going on 19. And Gwilym is 6, and he's our little pocket rocket. They're chalk and cheese, and somehow they get on most of the time. It's great, actually. Saving grace.
Isn't that funny? Because they just, because I can already tell my 2 they're just going to be different in their well, not say personalities, but just the temperaments are very, very different already.
Completely, yeah.
It's strange, you know. Like you're saying about how Keris copies, is like you. I think a lot of it is mimicking what you do a lot.
Of course, that's it. That's how they learn, isn't it? So it's going to happen, rightly or wrongly, and sadly or happily. It's going to.
In the morning, I just come out of nowhere and I says, "Here, Fiona." She likes decaf tea in the morning, so I was like, "Here you go, here's a cup of tea," and she goes, "Oh, thanks, darling."
Oh, I love
that's what Phil says all the time. Thanks, darling. Thanks, darling. It's just, it's just cheeky. That's funny. Bless him. So basically, you knew about this. You've been following the Swan Effect, Mum, and you knew I was doing this podcast. And I was going to reach out to you because, obviously, you can tell by her accent, she's not Welsh. You're from Australia, and I've
got one of those strange hybrid accents that's neither here nor there, really.
You're getting a bit Welshy in here. So Pam and her family and my friend Mel and Andy and family came over permanently back to Wales, as your husband's from here originally, and so is Andy. And I wanted to speak to you about basically moving. What's it like for you moving a family from where you live, your home country, over to Wales? And you said, yeah, that's fine. However, and then you mentioned that you had suffered from postnatal depression after having Keris, your firstborn. So I was like, let's talk about that for sure. So how long, and this is it, I didn't know this about you, so how long after Keris did you start showing signs of PND? And did you know it was postnatal depression at first?
At first, no. But it was pretty instant for me because I was still in hospital. So Australia is a little bit different to here in that if you have private health cover, which is almost the norm in Australia now, because that's the way the government is shifting it, or has been shifting it over time. So a lot of people do have private health cover, and therefore you're under the care of an obstetrician straight away, and you can choose your obstetrician, and you're with that person. So they're obviously with you at the birth. You've already built up a rapport, which is really nice, actually, especially as a first-time mum, because you don't know what's going on. So, but I also gave birth in a private hospital, and so my stay should have been anywhere between 3 and 5 days as a first-time mum, but I was in for 8 days. That was because of the postnatal depression, also other things. But So for me, it was pretty instant that, yeah, that I'm not right. It's not just kind of baby blues. And I remember actually waking up the night after I'd had her and looking at her and just feeling the overwhelming responsibility of the situation. It was just enormous and massive and kind of hits you like a ton of bricks in the stomach. And it was, so for me, it was instant, pretty much.
So you say that, I mean, a lot of people listening will think, well, yeah, I had that too. Like you look at this baby, you think, oh, that's it now. My old life as I know it is gone.
True.
I've got this little tiny person who is relying on me 24 hours a day. But yours was obviously different because you ended up staying in hospital. So what were the symptoms? So that one thought, but that's just a thought. So that obviously didn't come out of your mouth. Did you then say to other people, look, I'm having these other thoughts? And what were the symptoms of it?
Well, so it was all, so the symptoms were, as I've said, you know, it wasn't just, I'd heard of baby blues. I'd heard that my hormones were going to go crazy and I was going to be teary and all of that. I just couldn't stop crying. Everything was like, oh, I can't do this. And the
like all
thing,
your emotions heightened, like,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I had no confidence, didn't know what to do. And I guess a bit of background about me really is that, and I'm sure most of us have an element of it, but I'm a perfectionist, and if I'm going to do something I want to do it well. And I'm also a manual person, insofar as you give me the book, you tell me the instructions or tell me how to do a thing, and I can do it. I've got a brain, I can learn anything. So give me the manual and I will do that. But we all know that babies don't come with a manual. So
I think there's things in life that you can do. You know, someone can teach you to drive a car, and you drive a car and you pass your test. Someone can teach you how to cook. You watch them, you can do it. And I get where you're coming from, because I am exactly the same as you. There's two things in my life that I've never had any control of. Everything else I've gone, I want to lose weight, and I've done it. You know, even when the doctor said, you know, you're not going to be able to do this, I did it. You know, academic stuff, I've done it. But I remember saying to my mum, I think it's about time I settled down, get a boyfriend. She's like, yay. And 6 months down the line, I was getting so angry because I was like, I just can't do it. I don't know how to do it. How do you get a boyfriend? Because it's unpredictable, isn't it? You know, there's no, of
course it is.
There are guidebooks, but every situation is different. And I thought that exactly the same with motherhood. You can read the books, you can go to all the, well, first off, my birth didn't go as I thought it would. So that was thrown into the air. I was poorly as well, but also it's every baby's different. More so with Ronnie, like everything. You know, with Willem, there's no good book that can cover for every eventuality at all. Not frustrating people like me and you, but we need to know.
Yes, I need you need to tell me how to do this so that I can do it.
I felt when you saying you thought, like you were saying, you felt like overwhelmed and upset and crying. I felt anger because it wasn't how I wanted it to be. That was the emotions I kept having was, oh, I'm not supposed to still be in hospital now. Why am I still in hospital? And I want to go home and I want to do this. And, you know, I was getting more and more frustrated, I think. It's funny.
I can understand that. Totally. I can understand that. But I was petrified of doing the wrong thing as well. But also breastfeeding didn't work for me. So I ended up with mastitis. And of course, the midwives, quite rightly, you know, they're trying to coax you through the breastfeeding because, you know, you've got to try, I think, personally, you've got to try. I had to try. For me, I wanted to try. This is a real reason
you really don't want to, then, you know,
absolutely. And so Gwilym was a completely different kettle of fish. I was like, no, not doing that. Not going to happen. So
let's just move on. I know the pain. It's not happening.
Just give me the formula, please. But so I was trying with Keris. My nipples were inflamed and sore, and you know, just my husband was also running his own business, so he couldn't have time off, so he wasn't with me. He would leave at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he would get home or back to the hospital at that time. So when I was still in hospital, he would come and sleep with me from about 10 o'clock at night. But then he'd watch me trying to do this breastfeeding, and he was getting frustrated because he could see how much pain I was in. And so it was about day 4 where my obstetrician, as I mentioned, I had an obstetrician, he came in to check on me, and he looked at the situation and he took charge completely. It was amazing, and quite a turning point for me, because he got the nurses in. He said, get rid of the cabbage leaves in the fridge. That's not going to work. Get this woman some antibiotics, get the baby some formula, and get mental health up here, because this isn't right. This situation isn't right. And I was like, oh, hallelujah. Thank goodness for that. My baby's actually going to get fed now.
I suppose at that time, you're not thinking, I've got postnatal depression as well as all this going on. You're just thinking, like I said, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And then when he says that, you go, oh, that makes me feel better, because it's not just all in my head. Like, there's so much going on and trying to grasp it.
Absolutely.
I would see so many mothers in the ward trying to breastfeed. I couldn't, because I ended up being really ill myself. I did try to get the first bit, but like they said to me, Lynn, seriously, don't worry about it. And then I cried, I should be able to breastfeed. we put so much pressure on ourselves. Like you said, I tried, and I did try, so I'm happy with that.
Absolutely.
However, I would see these women and they would be beside themselves because they were in pain, the baby wouldn't latch on. And I follow a lot of breastfeeding mums, and power to them. I'm really great. I think it's great. But sometimes I'm just like, wow, why put yourself through that much mental pain as well as physical pain?
That's it, because it's hard enough trying to get your head around everything. And the midwife, once Keris had actually got some formula in her belly, one of the midwives said to me, oh, no wonder she wouldn't settle for you, she was hungry. And I thought, oh, this poor child, she's been starving because I couldn't get any milk. But formula was invented for a reason. And so many people have said to me since, their children, I was a formula baby. I didn't know that, but I'm okay. And you look at my kids now and they're grand. Absolutely grand. There's nothing wrong
with it. That's a whole other podcast in my sense, because my mum breastfed me and Claire, my big sister, and then she had the twins when she didn't know she was having twins, so she gave birth to Owen and had Sean 12 months after and didn't know.
Oh my God, right till birth.
Right till birth. I talk about that, honestly, 12 minutes difference. She didn't know she was having a 4th child until she gave birth to a 3rd. I think there's 12 minutes. So both born at 30 weeks, both under 3 pounds, both very, very poorly. So they got whisked off. So it was out of her hands, really. She couldn't breastfeed. And then, she, obviously I was not even 2 then, and Claire was 10. It was, a lot of children. So formula fed. And she said, you know what, Lynn, there's no difference. Owen's over 6 foot. I'm over, I'm nearly 5'11". Sean and Claire, one's breastfed, one isn't. They're tiny. There's nothing to do with growth. We've all done very well for ourselves, academically, brain-wise. It's just, but I get that. So I think I've never known anyone to have it diagnosed in the hospital. A lot of girls I've spoken to have said, to be honest, though, it's different here in the UK. I remember when I was having Fion, they turned around, my first baby, my mum was beside herself. She couldn't believe it. They said, if you have a natural birth, we'll tell you to come in when you're 1 minute apart. And then you'll come in, they throw you into the maternity, like the labour room, you give birth, and if all's well and it's all been natural and everything like that, you could go home that same day. My mother nearly had a dicky and went, I was in for 10 days. Like, everyone was in for 10 days because, how do they teach you breastfeeding? So I could see a lot of women that could happen to them. And where you said by day 4, this, the doctor had said, and get the mental health team up. There's mothers going home after hours.
And exhausted as well. exhausted already because they've just given birth, and then they're expected to do all of this. And I know there's community nursing, I know there is support there,
it's stretched.
but it exactly like everything.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't, as a first time mum, as I say, it's completely different the second time, or it was for me the second time around, but as a first time mum, that's too much pressure. That's too much pressure.
The next question I was going to ask you, though, because I didn't know that side of it. So who did you speak to first? Obviously, they put it forward. So at what point did you say to anything to Justin, your husband, in those 4 days before the doctor said that? Did you say, I don't feel right here? Or did you just think, this is how it is, and you're just dealing with it as best as you can?
Do you know what, Lynn? I don't even remember having specific thoughts other than, oh my God, what have I done? Really? Seriously. Because also I was an older mum as well. So that's something else. I was 36.
You feel like you should have it all sorted by then. You feel like you're old, because I'm older. I was 36. And you just think, well, I'm mature now. I'm older and I really want this. So I should be kind of grateful for this, and I shouldn't be moaning.
No, absolutely. And the flip side of that too is you're in the zone now of your life where you're nailing it a little bit. It's like, I'm 36. I've got a partner. We've got a house. I've got a nice career. I've got a nice life. And what the hell was I thinking? Bringing a baby to mix things up a bit.
I still have those thoughts.
I know.
Nappies.
Yeah, what have I done? But they're awesome, and this is the thing, is we all have those thoughts. I think everybody. And if it's they're
not, they're lying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. But and there are particularly nurturing maternal people out there, and full kudos to them. That's lovely. I am not one of those people. Doesn't make me any less of a good mum. I think I'm a good mum now. But in those first few days, there was a fog of, I don't know what to do. I don't want this. There's nothing I can do about that now. I've just got to make it happen because I've created this situation. I don't know how I'm going to get through it. I don't know. And tears, basically.
Yeah.
And reading all the books. So I would look up, okay, what's a good book? Okay, I need to get that one. And I'd send hubby the list, you need to get me this book. And I did come across a very good one, which I can't remember the name of right now. Sorry.
Well, that's really handy to the listeners. So thanks, Pam. That's great.
This is pretty much how my stories go. Oh, I know something really good, but I can't tell you about it because I can't remember.
Right, the next bit, I'm just going to take a break now, but the next bit I'm going to ask you about the support that was given to you, medication and things. Obviously, it's all based in Australia, but a lot of people would be interested to see how different it is in different countries. So we'll just take a break and I'll be back shortly. Thanks a lot.
Can afford.
I don't know if anyone can hear that. Hi, so we're back. We've just been spending the break time looking for this book that Pam was on about. So what was it called again? Sorry, Pam.
It's The Contented Little Baby by Gina Ford.
There you go.
And I found it about 3 months when Keris was about 3 months old, and I reckon it's one of the things that saved my life.
Really?
That sounds very dramatic.
Yeah, we like dramatic. Why not put me dramatic?
I know.
It helped a lot.
It wasn't quite that dramatic, but it was a massive, massive help. Yes.
I think there's certain things that just are like a turning point, and you go, oh, thank you, I feel so much better now. So get that book. Is it for postnatal depression, did you say, or did you say something about routines? It's just for any new mum.
It's literally just about routines. And there's two schools of thoughts, isn't there? I mean, I knew mums who didn't have routine and couldn't cope with routine. I need to have a routine and a structure. And so it's literally at 9 a.m. your baby needs to be fed this amount of breakfast, and at 9:30 a.m. your baby needs to go to sleep for this amount of time. So it's very detailed. Don't
Wow.
need to follow it to that detail.
Yeah.
But for me, knowing, okay, well, and the funny thing was, though, she kind of fell into that pattern anyway. Once you notice it, and once you kind of had the validation of, yeah, this is kind of what should be happening, and it is, it's like, okay, I can breathe now. This is.
I think that's the thing. I think, you get support for the first week or so after having a baby, or even the first few weeks. But yeah, I think 3 months on, everyone disappears. Especially during lockdown, it's hard. But I mean, in general, everyone's been to see the new baby. Everyone's, the midwives have gone after 28 days. Health visitors, they come sparingly. Yeah, I think if you can find anything, so whether it's podcasts, an audiobook, or a book, or someone to talk to online, I think just find a way of dealing with it. And like you said, if you don't want to follow the routine that much, you don't have to. I think that there's so many people out there, experts. You look for what you want to do as a parent, and you find that person that's going to help you guide that path.
Find the things, the thing that slots into your life the best, because you will find your way. I mean, and I can say that now that I'm out the other side. At the time, I didn't think, it was going to fit, but there's always something that resonates with you.
Exactly. So you're in Australia now. It's been day 4. The doctors told the mental health team to come up and see you. So then you sent home at day 8. What support was given to you after that? Were you on medication? So the next one was, how long were you on medication for? Attend therapy? What did you have involved?
Yeah. So mental health. So I was lucky. I was fortunate. I was in a private facility, so there was the mental health care on hand, and they were wonderful. They came up, and so I had a counsellor pretty much that afternoon come up and speak to me, and a prescription for it was anti-anxiety to begin with. And then after they'd had a few sessions and they kind of thought, okay, no, you need to go on to the antidepressant medications. But the anti-anxiety is what kind of brings you down to a level where you can actually function. So they also ran a new mums group at the mental health centre at the hospital as well. So that's completely separate to what you would have in the community mums group. And so that was the first 6 months. I was going to those sessions once a week, and I was probably middle of the road. There was mums that were worse off than me, and there were mums that were better off than me. But it was
like
a safe
mental
place.
Health problems, isn't it? It's like a spectrum, and some are there and some are there.
Yeah.
But you're all dealing with it in your own way, aren't you? It's still
Exactly.
to each individual.
That's exactly right. So, but it was a place where you went, and it was a couple of hours, and it was, you just did what you needed to do. So if you sat on the floor, you sat on the floor, you sat on a chair, there was tea and coffee, you changed your baby slept if it could or would, and you cried a lot. So, but it was fine. It's fine.
And completely different to the UK, completely.
From
what, because I've spoken to a few now, so correct me if I'm wrong, anybody listening, but a few ladies I've spoken to have gone to the GP and said, I'm having these thoughts, and they said, oh yeah, it sounds like you've got postnatal depression. Here are some antidepressant tablets on your way. Let us know if you're struggling in a few weeks' time. Then they go back and go, still really struggling, and then they'll be put on a waiting list for, I want to say, cognitive therapy or something like that.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's a long process, but you're saying it's like that's private care, though, isn't it?
Well, it was. Yeah, and that's another podcast as well. My thoughts on private.
Exactly.
It's expensive, so that's hard. But then you get what you need at the right time, mostly, not always.
All my questions, no, you get it mostly, yeah. All the questions I've asked you have completely through, because I didn't know your history, so these questions aren't making sense. I'm going to shift them about a bit.
That's all right. That's all right.
So I've put, was any non-medical support provided? But obviously you've already had all that. Did you? Because you're into your fitness like myself, and you're into a lot of things similar to that. Like how to, I won't say mental health things, but what's the remove and learn, which I'll talk about afterwards. Your company. What did you do? Did you, because for me, I went out walking as soon as I could. Once the babies were fine, I'd go out walking to get fresh air. And we were just talking about that before, about getting active as soon as you can. Did you do that then, or is that something you've done now they're older?
No, I did that, and that was another thing that was hard for me, because and yoga was, I was doing yoga 3 or 4 times a week. Did it. Keris was born on the Tuesday. I was in my last yoga class on the Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
And I was running before that. So very, very health conscious, and I know the benefits. So that was, you asked about or touched on non-medicinal care, and very encouraging to move, because as you quite rightly say, you need to walk, it's fresh air, but it's movement, because you just need to get the endorphins going. For me, that in itself was tricky, as you know, putting Ronnie into the creche, but so there was that aspect which she hated, but then she didn't like being in the pram either. So she would cry if she was in the pram, which stresses you, and you don't want to be out and about with a crying baby, because you're thinking, what are people thinking about me? Which is so ridiculous, because actually what I'm thinking is, oh God, that poor mother. I wish I could go up to them and take the baby and she could go and have 5 minutes. But so I have to time my walks morning and night for when she will nap for 30 minutes, and she was by the clock. So it was 30-minute window. And yes, so Move, Laugh and Learn came into that a little bit as well, because I'm awesome at sensory and craft and arts and things, but I also knew I needed to move, and I needed the kids to move. They have to do more active things as well. And my husband is great at thinking up silly games, which are so simple, but really, really effective.
Sometimes it doesn't have to be anything over the top, does it? For me, especially during lockdown, as soon as I got the double buggy and Ronnie was big enough for that, I said, I'm going to go to Conway, which is a local town to me and Pam. And I remember just thinking, I'm out of the 4 walls. I'm just out of my house just for an hour. It was bliss. So sometimes it's just getting out from the environment you're in. I'm not saying that's a toxic environment. It's just
it can be. Yeah, that's it. It can be, because if you're stuck, because that compounds the effects too of the depression. Is like your life has changed so much, and now I can't even go out.
And like you were saying about Keris, I'm very lucky that Ronnie, she goes to a creche when I'm in gym, and she loves it. She's very good at things like that. Doesn't bother. But obviously, when you've got a child that cries like that, your mindset is, I'm going to have a baby. I bet it's fine, because I'll take her to crash while I go and do my keep fit, and I can still do lots. Yeah. Baby's not going to change me. What's that saying? A baby an awesome to my life, I'm not adapting into their life, or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I was an awesome mum when I had hypothetical children.
Oh my God, weren't we all? However, it doesn't work like that. And when someone like me and you, perfectionists, and I like to plan everything to the nth degree, and that's why I'm a good organizer. I'm very good at organizing events and things, because I know it's got to get done. And then something happens, so I'm going to take my kids to the park today, and then I get there and Fiona decides to have the most biggest meltdown you could ever have, screams, and there's me then after 5 minutes going, right, get in the pram, we're going home. And I'm crying, she's crying, I'm just like, that was a disaster, start again tomorrow. And I'm thinking, that isn't how motherhood was going to play out in my head. We were going to have a lovely time, and I get, it is hard, it is very hard. But you went on to go and have your son, William. So we both, when I say both, because obviously this affected Justin as well. I know it's your mental health, but I'm very much an advocate for dads. They don't get a look in. They do so much, but they're just kind of on the sidelines. They don't get appreciated. We appreciate them, but other people don't appreciate how much your partner.
Society generally doesn't give dads enough kudos, I believe. And funnily enough, I've been looking at thinking about this issue for my own blog for June, because obviously it's Father's Day here in the UK in June, and I was listening to Eddie this morning. Your not your last guest, but he was brilliant. And dads don't get enough kudos, and there is dads suffer from postnatal depression as well. I mean, just didn't. That wasn't an issue for him, but he felt very frustrated because he was not able to be around for me more. And they, and it does have an impact on them. It's a stressful situation for them.
I've said with Fiona, like, it was so traumatic, her birth. It went from funny, like a funny afternoon in the labour ward and everything, to going very serious very quickly, and we almost lost her. And like Phil's, for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks later, I kind of blanked it from my head, because I was like, she's fine now, she's at home, we're fine. But if Phil would have a drink, like just a couple of drinks, and he'd bring it up, and he'd bring it up and bring it up, and I remember thinking, oh, he's not getting over this. And then there was a program about how dads suffer from postnatal depression, and we just watched it in silence together. It just happened to be on, and he looked at me and I looked at him, and we had this conversation without even saying a word to each other. And I was like, you've had that. And it is because as much as I went through it, I was on drugs and all sorts, I was so exhausted, whereas he wasn't. He was sober, watching his girlfriend, in shock. I went into shock as well, and they were resuscitating Fiona, and he saw all that sober. But then it's all about me then. How's Lynn? How's Lynn doing? How's the baby doing?
And the baby.
And he got sent home alone for 8 days on his own. The dads just don't get enough. So did you have to have a conversation? Because I had to with Phil when I was like, I'm going to want another baby. And he was like, please don't make me go through that again, please. Not in a horrible way, but, it was for him. And that's the thing. He was like, it didn't just happen to you, that, Lynn. It happened to me.
Exactly.
So, Justin, how did you get that? Did he want the next baby? Did you both want it? Did you discuss maybe, postnatal depression?
Yeah, we did. We did have those conversations because, we did. We didn't think that we wanted to have a single child. So, and the time was getting on as well. It was 2.5 years later. And being conscious that we were older already, we couldn't have left it too long. But yes, we did have conversations about, do we want to do this to ourselves? But I guess we wanted Keris to have a sibling more. Yeah. So, and because we'd had her, it was, well, that part is done.
And you got over it. You got yourself through it, and you
exactly.
recovered.
And we just need to manage it better. Well, not better, but differently.
Is there a reason for it, do you know? I mean, I don't know much about it. So is there anything you can do the next time around to prevent it from happening again, or not?
Well, for me, I was under the care of a psychiatrist then. So from the time, even before we conceived, I went to the GP, and we had a wonderful GP as well there, for who was very understanding and of the whole family situation, so also very caring for Just, which was nice. So I was under the care of a psychiatrist. I stayed on my medication on a very low dosage that was safe for us both, and just constantly kind of checking in, really. But I believe that as we've already discussed a couple of times, we're perfectionists. We're also older mums. When your life is rocked so badly, I think that you're better equipped the next time around, because okay, I know how to do that now. I've got this safety net of the medication, so that's okay. That's keeping me on an even keel. Yes, I have lots of worries and concerns about how it's going to go next time. And I also didn't want to take anything away from Keris either. I didn't want her to suffer through the process. So knowing that we could put things in place to make it a different experience is what we did. And, Gwilym was born, and I was anxious to go home after 2 days. So I think I had 2 days in hospital with him, and I was good. Let's just go home. This is great.
And that was in Australia again, was it, Pam?
Yeah. Very different animal. But I that's what I believe is my point, is because it's such a massive thing, and it's such a massive learning curve when you don't know what to do. It's easier the second time around, was for me anyway.
Yeah. I think for me, I found it hard in the sense I then had a toddler as well at home, and lockdown and everything involved in that. It was just,
Lockdown is a completely
mad.
different beast, isn't it?
Yeah, it really was.
I don't know how mums cope.
It's, do you know what, especially like myself, who's a very sociable person, that's why I do this, because I needed to speak to other adults and I couldn't get out of the house. So how are you going to do that otherwise, you know? Entice people to come and talk to me every week. like a friend. Oh dear. So if you could give a new mum who may feel that they are showing signs of postnatal depression any advice, what would it be? So if they're listening in now and the babies are a few days or a few weeks or even a few months old, and they can't shift that feeling that they've had since day one, what would you say to them?
I just speak up, just get help. It's a shame I don't know the system here, because I know it's different, but I know there's health nurses in the community that are accessible, and I think don't give up. Like it's so hard. Everybody's different. It's so hard to say don't give up. And I mean, don't give up asking for help. If it's not listened to straight away the first time, keep saying it. But that's hard in itself, because it's so damn hard to speak up in the first place. But I think it's important to get help sooner rather than later. And to me, there's no shame in being on medication, because you take a paracetamol if you've got a headache. You know, I feel like I want to be the best mum I can be for both my children. So if that means that I'm going to be on medication, then so be it. Really, I don't have a problem with that. But I know somebody who left at a very long time, and her life, it was fine, don't get me wrong, everything's fine, children are fine, she's fine, but she left it about 15 years before she actually spoke up, and she put on a lot of weight in that time. So then it's like, when you finally get to that point, it's even harder to fix things. I think she lost so much confidence.
Is that still postnatal depression after 15 years, or is it the fact that you've probably dealt with it yourself and not done it not properly? That sounds awful, but you know, you've got through that stage and you think, oh, that's fine, it's gone now. But then, like you said, you'll find it doesn't go, because it's a mental health, you know, it's an illness in that sense, and you've not sought medical, you know, what's the word, advice, and it'll just emphasize, it goes somewhere else, like I said, eating.
And perhaps it's not labeled postnatal depression at that point, but it's having an impact on your mental health, isn't it? And
for something else.
A long time. But eventually, you know, she lost a lot of weight, and she's great. The kids are older, and her memories of babies is not that great, because it was such a traumatic time.
Isn't it?
Exactly. So my advice would be, do what's right for you. So speak up, and you know, if the medication isn't working, if you're offered medication, take it. There's no stigma. But if it's not working for you, if it's making you feel, you know, wrong in itself, then persevere and get the right one, because everyone's different.
I think one of the things is that when I filled out the forms after Fion, I knew I wasn't right, but I knew it wasn't postnatal, but I think I just had a bit of post-traumatic stress or something from the
well, it sounds like that's understandable.
And she was like, answer it, you know, honestly, Lynn. I was like, absolutely. No, Lynn, answer it honestly. And I was like, I will. And I started crying, and I went, but if I do, you'll take her off me. And this is, no, we won't ever do that. No. And I said, no, it's because I've had such a traumatic time. And they were like, we know, you just answer that as best as you can. And I think that was a fear. And don't ever fear that if you do go to someone and say, I'm not coping, that they're going to take children, because they won't. The whole point is that they want you to keep your children, so they want to help you. So
that would be a last resort, wouldn't it?
Absolute last resort.
That would not happen, because the best place for the baby to be is with their mum.
course it is. Every
Of
time,
course.
definitely. Well, the
Yeah.
last question before we go, let me just read. What piece of advice would you give to anyone who has a loved one struggling with postnatal depression at the moment? What should we say or should not say? So, did you go around telling friends and family, I've been diagnosed with postnatal depression?
No, I didn't
So,
want to see anyone.
did you just ignore everybody then?
Pretty much.
Okay. So then me, I know what I'm like with my sisters. I'd be phoning them up going, what are you doing? Why are you ignoring me? What's the matter? Or I'd knock on the door.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
should someone in our situation who has a loved one who is going through PND at the moment, what's the do's and don'ts? What do we say? What do we not say?
It's a good question, and it's good information, because I was thinking about it, and it's really hard to give advice because every single person is different and has different character traits. So for me, I struggle to be around people, and when I was thinking about why I struggled with that, it's because I didn't want to make them feel uncomfortable. So my husband and my mum were the two that were there constantly, and every day, and my mum was awesome because she just came over and she just did whatever she saw needed to be done. And because there's no point asking, what do you want? What do you need? I don't know. Just, oh my Lord, I don't know. I just need to look after this child.
Anyway, yeah.
So, and the other thing was, I remember lovely people, lovely friends would bring flowers, and I would look at flowers and think, oh, something else to look after, because I needed them to look nice in the vase. So you'd have to trim the stems and change the water. It's like, don't bring me flowers. There's something else I've got to look after. Like, bring me food. Just cook some meals, drop them off. That's the best thing for me right now. Do some washing. And I had one friend come, a very close friend, who had her child. I think he was about 6 at the time, so, or school age at least. So, she was kind of through all of that. And she came once, and I tried really hard not to cry, and it was so hard. And I was in tears by the end of it. And I didn't want her to come again. I just didn't invite people because I didn't want to put that on them. So my advice would be, if you're able to be involved, then come and just do. Like, as I said, my mum did, just come and do. Just come and make me lunch, or come and wash the dishes, or come and do a load of baby washing, and sit and then leave. Like, don't create a situation where the person feels that they need to entertain or do the right thing by having you there.
Yeah.
And then if you're not able to be involved and go by, or you're not within the circle of people that are coming to the house or whatever, then just sending messages of, hey, thinking of you, hope it's a good day for you today. Don't say, how are you? Because they're going to say, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's all right. So it's more of a case of just letting people know that you're in their thoughts, and they're going to be there for you when you're ready to come out and be with them again. It's no pressure then. I think for me, that's what would work the best.
See, I was the opposite. I just told everybody all the time, I'm struggling, and cried all the time. And then it was like I scared everybody away. Maybe that's what you should have done. Just scared everybody away.
I'm sure you didn't anyway.
I did, but I think just being honest about birth, because I was like you in the sense that I read books. I knew how it was going to be. In my head, I was going to be this sort of mum. Kind of knew that sometimes it'd go wrong. It's also, one born every minute, whatever. And I think I was in so much shock afterwards. I was like, did you know this could happen? Did you know this could happen? Like, even pregnant women, I'm like, if you want to get pregnant, just make sure you check everything. And it's like, I don't need to be the Dr. Death of the bloody pregnancy world, but I just think a lot of things that happen, like you say, it's a shock. You have this baby and it's overwhelming. And there's not much about the realism. I'm not saying the negative side, because it's not negative. It's just the realism of it all, and it's not
It is
all.
the realism. It
Yeah,
absolutely is.
and like you said, flowers are lovely, but come over and wash my dishes. Come
Yeah,
over. And I remember your sister-in-law, my friend Mel, she came over. Everyone bought presents, clothes and things, which is lovely. But she came over and bought a loaf of bread, some sausages, some mince for a dinner, and a jar of sauce and a packet of pasta. I thought that's
perfect.
the most random thing anyone's ever bought me. But you know what? It was just the
That's
best as
ace.
well. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was practical and what I needed at the time. And I'll never
exactly.
forget that.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah,
That's really nice.
yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the kind of stuff. Yeah, come over and wash the bottles out.
Yes, please.
That'd be good.
Well, hold the child while I go for a shower, please.
Exactly.
Practical thing.
Exactly. Oh my God, yeah, because you've got to have a shower. Oh,
So
seriously.
yeah, if you
There's
think that
nothing worse.
your sister, friend, anybody, auntie, whatever, is going through something, and like I said, it depends. You might have someone who talks like me, or someone like yourself that just goes inside themselves.
Mhm.
You'll judge that they're a bit different. You'll see that the signs are a little bit off. I said, don't go asking them how are you, like you say, because they're not always going to say, actually, this is how I feel.
No,
Just knock on the door with some food, a lasagna or something, go
exactly.
in, plonk it down, grab the child and say, go and have a shower. I'm here for half an
Yeah,
hour, do what you need to for half an hour, and then I'm off.
yeah,
Maybe that, I
absolutely.
think that's what I would do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I guess, around advice too, is as hard as it is. So my health nurse, my health visitor did come after. So I was involved in the mental health mothers group. Then my health visitor came and she practically forced me to get to the community mothers group. And I didn't want to go.
Hmm.
But I eventually did. And I cried the whole time. And those mums told me later that was their memory of me, is vigorously rocking this child, trying to get it to sleep
And it's
and
sobbing.
crying basically. But they didn't know me before, so I was a different person to
Yeah,
them. So there's also no need to be anything other
no.
than what you are now. And I know that a lot of mothers group can be awful, I know that, and it's partly why I didn't want to go, I think. But I was lucky in that my mother's group, we were all a bit older, we were all very honest and very real, and we were actually a really good support for each other, because we used to compete about how bad our kids were. It's not like, oh, is such and such walking, can they sit up? It wasn't like that at all. It was like, how far did they vomit that day? Seriously. And it was good. It's what you need to talk about. It's just the bad stuff, because
And you know what? Your
yeah,
friends don't always want to hear about that, because before I had
no,
children, I couldn't care less about kids' nappy changes.
no,
And I wouldn't, I
absolutely.
just wasn't interested. And I wasn't. And my friends all knew that. And I think that's why they
Yeah.
disappear now, because they're like, haha, you've got your own children now, see you later.
Yeah, suck it up.
Yeah. But like you said, it's a big change. You're an older mum, you had your life before them. And then, but you go to a mum's group, and like I said, they don't know Pam before babies.
No.
And that's it for me. I feel a bit anxious when I see my mates, because I feel like they're watching me going, no, I'm not going to do that when I become a mum, are you, Lynn? I get really
Exactly.
stressed, because I'm like, I said so much before I had children. I should have just
Yeah.
kept my mouth shut.
I knew so much then. Where did it
Yeah.
go?
I was an auntie, I looked after my niece and nephew quite a lot. I know
Exactly.
how to do this. God, blimey.
Oh, funny, isn't it?
So this is where you said
So,
about the move and learn. So do you want to talk
move,
about
laugh,
your
and learn.
move, laugh and learn? Have a
Yeah.
chat about that, because that's something you started in Australia and brought it over with you here. Is that right?
Yeah. So I did touch on it, didn't I? So
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. I'm really good. I can sit and pin loads of stuff. I'm really good at pinning projects and art and crafts and sensory and all of that kind of stuff. But being active, I know the importance of being active, and just ran a business in Australia that was for preschool age children, so from 15 months to school age 6 and beyond, really. But the point was that the parents came and did the sessions at the leisure centres where they were being held, but the parents had to be involved, because you can't,
Leave
the
them.
kids are so little,
Mm.
they're just very basic gross motor skills, and the point with kids that age is they just want to be with mum or dad. They don't want to, they're not interested in anyone else. They just want to be with mum and dad. But and they were absolutely brilliant. It was so well received. We had quite a few, we call them satellites, so different sessions go in on any given day, and life, you know, takes its turns as it does. And then we moved over here, so we decided, well, actually all these games are really great. We're teaching the parents anyway in the sessions. We can put this online and teach parents at home to do all of these simple games. And it's just the imagination. It's just prompters. So we've got over 100 games that we've videoed, which is also really nice because now we see our kids tiny weeny doing all of these games. It's very sweet. But they all have progressions, but they turn into something else. And the point is you're spending time actively playing, and there's nothing else around that's active play. There's loads on sensory play and things like that, which is all really important, don't get me wrong. But there's a place for active play as well. And so that's why we thought, let's do that online.
So do you want to give your website if anybody's interested in looking at that?
Yeah, so it's www.movelaughlearn.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook. And all the stuff is on the website. And we have a free instant yay pack. So if you're wanting to just check it out and see what it's about, then there's a full play planner. So we do the monthly play planner for people just to game suggestions. You don't have to stick to the play planner by any stretch, but I know as a busy mum, if somebody gives me a piece of paper, as we've talked about, the whole manual thing, give me a piece of paper and tell me what I need to do that month, I'm all over that. On it. So that's what we offer.
Do you know what, we've chatted for so long now, I'm looking, I'm thinking, gosh, it's been good.
How long has it been?
Wondering what's going on.
Oh,
well, thank you ever so much for being so open and honest, Pam. It's been really helpful, and I hope it helps a lot of people listening in as well.
I hope so.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll leave it at that at the moment because I think we've asked everything I need to ask.
Very good.
Yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch with Pam, then obviously look at the Instagram account or go onto her website and just message her. I'm sure you're quite happy to have a chat with anybody. Yeah,
absolutely, anytime. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Lynn.
Thanks everybody for listening. I'll be back soon. Thanks. Bye.